Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll go ahead and begin open session, 7 p.m., starting with item 3, general matters. We will go to item 3.01. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll go ahead and begin open session, 7 p.m., starting with item 3, general matters. We'll go to item 3.01. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll go ahead and begin open session, 7 p.m., starting with item 3, general matters. Item 3.01. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Go ahead and begin open session. Yes, can you hear me? Hopefully we won't have the infinite echo. We will go ahead and begin open sessions, 7:01 p.m., starting with general matters. Item 3.01, the land acknowledgement statement, which I will read now. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for their community and these lands. We will now go to item 3.02, the flag salute. And Vice President Tran, will you lead us in the flag salute today? Thank you.
Everyone, please stand. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic which is everyone, you may now be seated.
Thank you, Vice President Tran. We will now go to item 3.03, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Board members? Hearing none, we will go to item 3.04, approve, disapprove order of the agenda. Hearing none, we will go to item 3.05, report of action taken in closed session. Superintendent Cruz?
Thank you, Board President. The board, 3 votes in favor and 2 abstentions, approved the June 22nd, 21 closed session minutes. The board also approved the appointment of Taylor Nguyen as the coordinator for state and federal. There are no other actions to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. Okay. We will now go to item 4, oral communications. Beginning with item 4.01, members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time, and questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Do we have any public comments at this time?
So I'm going to ask Jose Chavez to offer his comments. The item we wanted to speak to was virtual board meeting. Mr. Chavez. Mr. Chavez, if you can unmute yourself, you can offer your comment at this time. Okay. I'm going to go on to the next public speaker request. I'm going to ask Diana Chavez, and your agenda item that you want to address is reopening classrooms when the cases are rising back up. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello? Hi, Mr. Cruz.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Hi, so yeah, I don't know if you remember me, Diana from YB.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, how are you? So I wanted to know what are your thoughts about that, about reopening the schools when these cases are rising? And yeah, so what are your thoughts about that?
Diana, we're not able to engage in a back and forth. So if you want to just state what your concerns are, and the board will hear that. I will be speaking on our COVID response on agenda item back and forth. So if you want to just state what your concerns are.
10.05.
10.05, and so you can hear some of the things that we're doing as we start to reopen.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chavez, are you able to unmute yourself at this point? If not, we will move on.
All right, we will now go on to item 5, election of officer. Item 5.01, we elect clerk. Board members.
Madam President, I'd like to go ahead and select or nominate Rudy Rodriguez to go ahead and be the clerk of the.
Second.
I'll second that.
Rudy Rodriguez has been nominated for the clerk position. Is there any discussion?
He's had experience at that.
Great. Okay, so the motion has been made to elect Rudy Rodriguez as clerk of the board and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes
I
unanimously.
will humbly abstain.
So the motion passes 4 with 1 abstention.
Put it on.
Thank you,
I could
Rudy.
put it.
Great. We will now go to item 6, the public hearing. Starting with item 6.01, the public hearing on proposed amendments to board policy 6158. So we'll go ahead and open that public hearing. And do we have any? So that was opened at 7:09 PM and we'll go ahead and close that 7:09 PM. We will now go to item 7, consent items under 25,000. I'm going to ask members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items in accordance with board bylaws 9323. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Is there any public comment? Board members, please let me know if there's any items you'd like to pull from consent items.
Yes, I would like to put out pull item 7.07.
7.07 will now become action item 10.3. Any other items? Okay, I will accept a motion whenever we're ready.
Move to approve consent item 7.01 to 7.06.
Second.
Items 7.01 through 7.06 have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 8, consent items over 25,000. Again, members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items in accordance with board bylaws 9323. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Do you have any public comments on these items?
No, we don't.
Okay, board members, let me know again if there's any items you'd like to pull. Otherwise, I will accept a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve consent items 8.01 through 8.12.
Second.
The motion has been made to approve items 8.01 through 8.12 and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 9, construction items. Again, members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items in accordance with board bylaw 9323. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Do we have any public comments? Okay. Board members, let me know if there's any items you would like to pull. Hearing none, I will accept a motion.
Move to approve consent items 9.01 to 9.10.
Items 9.01 through 9.10 have been moved for approval and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We'll move to item 10, action items. Item 10.01, the personnel report.
Madam President, I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted and that A, the employment for the following employees be approved. Ricardo Ramos, computer technician IT, effective 8/9/21. Yael Levine, teacher Lerone, effective 8/11/21. Adrian Serralano, teacher at McKinley, effective 8/11/21. Hong Yuen, noon duty at McKinley, effective 8/16/21. Sarah Brady, teacher at Shirakawa, effective 8/11/21. And Diana Romero Corona, noon duty at Shirakawa, effective 8/16/21. And B, the resignation for the following employee be approved. Wak Tran, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, effective 8/13/21.
Second to the motion. Right, the personnel report and addendum have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. And that motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10.02, the June 22nd board meeting minutes. Board members, hopefully you've had a chance to review these minutes, and I will accept a motion when you are ready.
Madam President, I move to approve action item 10.02.
Right, item 10.02 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. So
Abstain as well.
motion passes with 3 in favor and 2 abstentions. We will now go to item 10.03, the June 29th, 2001 special board meeting minutes. And hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes, and I will accept a motion when you are ready.
Move to approve the June 29th special board meeting minutes.
Right, the June 29th special board meeting minutes have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. And that motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. We will now go to item 10.04, the 45-day budget revision for the fiscal year 2021 through 2022. We have Assistant Superintendent Van.
Okay with the board? It's gonna be very difficult to talk.
You're fine, Jason.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all. Franklin-McKinley School District is presenting tonight the 45-day budget revision. As you know, on June 22nd of 2021, the district has approved its budget based on the May revise from the state. On June 28th, the state enacted its own budget. There's differences between the May revise and the enacted budget. So this is our opportunity to show what those changes are doing to impact our multi-year projection. In accordance with Ed Code 42127H, a school district shall make available for public review any revision to the revenues and expenditures that it has made to its budget to reflect the funding made available by the Budget Act no later than 45 days after the governor has signed the annual budget. So tonight, I'm just going to go over some of the larger items that adjusted our multi-year projection for 21-22. The first item, as you can see here, is the increase in LCFF funding. The governor has increased the amount of funding for those districts that have a high percentage of English learners, foster youth, and those who are eligible for free and reduced meal plans. Based on that increased funding for those students, the district is going to potentially receive $2.2 million more in concentration grant funding for year 21-22, $2.1 million for 22-23, and $2 million for 23-24. Of course, all new monies usually comes with some type of attachment to it. So these dollars are expected to be spent on additional staff to provide direct services to students. This includes custodial staff.
Jason,
Yes.
is that net right there of the revenue increase? Is that the difference between the May revise and the June adoption, or?
Correct.
So we're expecting 2.2 million more than what we expected in May.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
The next item that increased revenue for our district are one-time funds relating to ESSER 3. The district is going to receive approximately $18.3 million more in ESSER 3 funds, and that's shown here. This revenue is also going to have a corresponding offset in new expenditures. We've spread out the 18.3 million over the multi-year projection of 3 years. The district receives ESSER 3 funds based on the requirement of developing a plan on how to spend those ESSER 3 funds to, at a minimum, address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, and address any pre-existing opportunity gaps that were exacerbated, by COVID-19 pandemic. The LEA must use at least 20% of the ESSER 3 apportionment for expenditures related to addressing the academic impact of lost instructional time through the implementation of evidence-based interventions, such as summer learning programs, summer enrichment, extended day, comprehensive after-school programs, extended school year programs. In addition to the ESSER 3 funds, we're also receiving expanded learning opportunity program grant funds. This is not to be confused with the ELO that was offered last year. This is a new additional grant enacted by the budget to provide access to comprehensive expanded learning for all unduplicated students in elementary schools. The intent is to provide additional before and after school opportunities for students, as well as additional 30 days of expanded learning. As a condition of receiving this apportionment, a district must offer expanded learning to at least all unduplicated students from K through 6, and then at least provide services to 50% of those students in K through 6. Lastly, they also reduced the UI rate for school districts. The UI rate at the May revise was 1.23%. It is now down to 0.5%, which is going to save us approximately $450,000 in the year 21-22. Of course, there are some other one-time dollars and grant funds that are in the Budget Act, but we don't know what all of those grant funds are going to produce for our district. So we did not include it in the 45-day budget revision as of now. We're going through and analyzing that information, and we'll have that in the first interim update for the district, which is in December. Based on these components that I've talked about, here are the changes in the reserve for the 3 years presented. As you can see, in the first year, it's 0.19% for the reserve. What was adopted as of June. And now after the 45-day budget revision, it's 21-22 at 14.64%. And then as you can see, all the other changes to the reserves in the following 2 years. That's it for my presentation, and I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Jason.
And if I could just add one piece, in the slide that Jason indicated in the ESSER funds as presented in May, we were combining or braiding the different funds from the state and the federal and presented to the board a 3-year plan for some of the staffing that we were recommending, the custodial staff, the social workers, the support specialists that, those have not been filled. We have had an opportunity to get candidates. So those are funds that are in one time, but we were based on their end date. We were recommending a 3-year plan and commitment to that augmentation of staff so that we would be able to sustain it over 3 years. So, when Jason indicates that there's these funds and corresponding expenditures that come with that, that's what he's referring to, that the ongoing commitment to provide social workers, custodial, in some cases paraeducated for a year. So those were the plans that we submitted back in June to the board.
Thank you again, Superintendent Ben. Do we have questions, board members? I see Board Member Rodriguez and then Board Member Sanchez.
And you did bring up a topic I was going to ask about the social workers, especially with the reopening of our schools. Are we prepared with the staffing of social workers at each of our schools, or do we still have both?
So we still have some openings in anticipation of that. You approved an agenda item, a contract with Uplift.
Right.
So in the situations where we have not hired an FMSD social worker, we're contracting with Uplift for them to allocate a therapist, a social worker, so that all schools are staffed when school starts.
So I'll wait till we get to that topic regarding reopening. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yeah, Jason, you mentioned 30 days extended journey.
Extended learning days.
Extended learning. We're going to work that into our curriculum.
We would have to look at how we want to fit that into our calendar. You can do it at any break period. So you can add it during like a fall break, spring break, winter break. You could add at the end of the year.
Summer
as
school.
possibilities. So additional summer school. Yes, correct.
Any other questions, comments, board members?
Jason, I'm trying to understand because from this May revise to this June adoption, it seems like we're just getting more money. Right?
That is the plan under the governor's adopted budget for the state, is to actually provide more money for those districts that have a high concentration of youth that apply as an unduplicated youth. So whether they're foster youth, eligible for free and reduced meal plans, so on and so forth.
Right. So I'm assuming when you did the May revise, we were under the assumption that it was a 50% increase for the concentration funds, right? But now with the June adoption, it increased to 65, and we're getting a higher net out of that.
Correct.
So when you do the comparison for the reserve in June 2021, and then comparing that to the after 45-day revision, I'm just confused as to why the ending balance is still.
So great question. Love the question. So the way we calculate the reserve is based on looking at our unrestricted dollars divided by our total expenditures for the year. So in this particular scenario, as you can see in the multi-year projection, we're actually increasing our revenue and also increasing the expenditures. The unrestricted general fund balance at the end of the year does not change, but our total expenditures for the year is actually increasing, which actually reduces our reserve percentage.
So as we increase our revenue, we also increase expenditures with it, because why?
Because these are new dollars that are specifically allocated for additional services to students.
Gotcha. Understood now. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? I have had the same question. Vice President Trent. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Mann, for the presentation.
Okay.
The board does need to take action.
Yes, the board needs to take action on the
So I will accept a
update to
motion,
the
the revisions.
budget.
Move to approve action item 10.04, the 45-day budget revision for fiscal year 21 to 22.
Second.
Item 10.04 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10.05, reporting on delegating authority to take the necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus. Superintendent Cruz?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to report that one of our schools did start today, College Connection Academy, and they had a very successful launch of their school year today. And very much like CCA, we staff have been working diligently over the summer to make sure that our facilities are ready in accordance with the public health recommendations that would provide a safe, as safe as possible environment, which is in regards to ventilation. And so all of the classrooms in their HVAC units have been inspected. When maintenance was required, that has been provided. All of the units also have been retrofitted with the higher grade MERV 13 filters as recommended by public health. And so we're confident that the ventilation recommendations by public health have been addressed to make sure that there's the circulation of air and that it's being filtered to that degree. We are also recommending to staff that those that have doors that lead out to the outdoors and windows that they can add that as an additional layer of providing ventilation into the classrooms. The staff have also allocated 2 HEPA filters per site to be available in the event that the HVAC unit fails in a given day. You know, we know that sometimes they may go down, and so we have that ready for them to go into those classrooms that are needed. The staff also have supplied the schools with PPE, masks, and things of that nature, so that staff and students have that if they somehow need an additional mask or students forget their mask. Staff have also worked with a consultant in regards to an audit of our cleaning and our practices, and that also is providing additional hours and staffing for our schools to make sure that the facilities are being cleaned and disinfected daily. And training has been provided to our custodial staff to address those items as well. We are also mandating that all staff and all students wear masks indoors and also wear them outdoors when they cannot socially distant. And so that is the step that we're taking to protect students and staff at this time. We're also not allowing visitors or parents to come into our campuses. Students are dropped off at the front of the school. And this was again to provide additional protection and not having adults on our campuses of which we don't know their vaccination status. We are using company nurse to provide daily screening, health screening of all staff and also our students. And so that will allow an additional layer of protection for our campuses. And in addition to that, we are continuing with virtual back to school nights and events where we would have a high congregation of the community. We are continuing with those practices of keeping those virtual again, at least until we see how things progress as soon as we open and we can start pulling back on some of those measures as conditions improve. We are trying our best to make sure that we're doing what's reasonable in regards to the health and safety of our students while protecting the ability for us to stay in person. And that's one of the reasons why we are proceeding with caution and providing some additional measures that we can pull back as needed. At this point, I will open it up for questions from the board.
Board members, are there any questions?
One I was going to ask previously, but now I'll ask now, regarding reopening. Are we anticipating, or are we going to track any incidents due to, the young people, the students, their mental health? Because I don't know for sure because I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking that, some of the students might react differently now that because they've been home a year and a half.
Yes, absolutely. And so very much the way we tracked it also, even when we were in distance learning, referrals for services, things of that nature will be recorded and making sure that we are also tracking when we are connecting them with services and all those things. Part of our contract last year that the board approved for Welligent is for us to track and record the different concerns that we're seeing from students, and then being able to also track, when they're connected with services, and then we will be able to then look at also the impact and the effectiveness of some of these measures that we're taking. So yes, we are tracking and will be tracking a lot of data around attendance, behavior, resources, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm just curious about children interacting with other children outside their family. And I also am a little concerned if our teachers have the resources to handle any incidents that might arise. Again, I have no real knowledge of how to proceed, would even ask deeper into that.
Right. And again, we're the reason why we contract with Uplift was to making sure that we at least had another, mental health professional on the campuses, right? Even though we didn't have the ability to fill those positions before school started. And so as of today, I believe that we have enough allocated that every campus will have a mental health professional on campus full time. I cannot predict, how all this is going to work, but I can tell you that we've been working with also our administrative staff in regards to how do we respond? How do we make sure that we understand the impact that this has had on everybody, right? Not just our students, but our adults as well. And so part of tomorrow's convocation is about sort of reflecting on this and understanding that adults and students have gone through trauma, and we respond to trauma in very different ways. And we have to just sort of approach this from that lens and understand and support. And so that will be tomorrow's message at convocation in our keynote, that we need to understand that we're not coming back to something that is normal, right? And I don't know that we will be getting to anything that will be considered normal anytime soon. And so with that understanding, we have to approach how we support staff and how do we support students.
Questions, Board Member Martinez?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I was there this morning as well, and I wanted to report back that, it's just day one, but kudos to the staff for really implementing the safety measures, and also especially to our families and to our students. What I saw there were excited students, excited families, and folks wearing masks and doing their part. And this is, like Superintendent Cruz said, it's going to be a group effort. And I just wanted to reiterate that, kudos to the community we're utilizing the tools like the company nurse, the masks, and, you know, it's going to take some getting used to, but it seemed like, you know, the message is getting out there. And just what I saw as a father and as a member of this community, it looks like we are all doing our part and we will continue to do our part.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. Other questions?
Yeah. Couple of things, Superintendent Cruz. I know that every district is kind of taking a different approach in terms of somewhat different approaches in terms of dealing with the unified has mandated that all their staff vaccinated. I'm not advocating that. But I was going to ask, in terms of vaccination of staff, do we have an idea percentage?
Allow me to just clarify something that you said, and I know that I was in the EOC meeting and it was clarified. San Jose Unified has not mandated their employees to be vaccinated. What they've done is they've asked them to prove that they've been vaccinated, and if they cannot provide proof, they're being mandated to be tested regularly. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, that there's none of the districts that I am aware of are actually requiring that their employees be vaccinated at this time. But they are asking for proof. And then if they cannot provide the proof, they're asking them to test. In our case, we have not required for them to show proof. We've complied with public health requests that we survey and self-disclose who has been fully vaccinated and who hasn't. And employees have had the option of declining to declare. Okay. I think we are at 85%, is that right, Annette? 85% of the employees that have responded positively that they have been fully vaccinated. It may be higher than that if people have chosen not to disclose, and then, you know, they could be fully vaccinated. We don't know that, but that is a self-reporting number that we can share with you. But we have been a district that has been requiring all employees that are coming in person, you know, up until this point, regardless of status of vaccination, that we continue to test every 2 weeks. And we do it in-house, and we've continued to do that for quite a while. We're due this week as well, Jason. And so that has been something positive for us. One, because we're able to reaffirm that people are negative. You know, I'll tell you from my personal experience, every time I get that email and it says negative, I feel better, even though I'm fully vaccinated. So we will continue to do that because it is about the different layers of protection that we can provide.
Lieutenant Cruz, so will that testing apply to all of our staff as we now return?
Yes.
at the Start of the school year, so
Yes.
all staff will be tested every 2 weeks.
Correct. And Jason, remind me, we're looking at moving also to testing 4 through 8 students once a month. Is that correct?
We have an estimate on when that will start. And when will parents be given the option? Any other questions, comments?
Just real quick, Superintendent, in terms of a mask for everybody, for the small children, because I've been at schools in terms of the kindergartners, first graders, second graders. You have enough masks for all of them for the small fry.
Yeah, so we ordered both adult and child size masks. We recently also ordered masks that provide a clear face so that, especially for students that, need the, the ability to see and read lips. So we ordered some for children and adults as well. I'm not sure if they're in just yet, but we did order those. We have enough supply on hand for students that are needing for us to provide that. I can tell you that when I went around in summer school, our students complied. Our students wear their mask. Our adults wear their mask. And so I'm much like Mr. Martinez, it's a community effort. And I can tell you that I do believe our students understand that this is about, health and safety, and they are complying. They are wearing them. And so I truly appreciate, their understanding their cooperation with this. So I know that this is not, the best way to open. We would like to be able to not have these restrictions, but, right now I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
May I ask a follow-up question to the testing grades 4 through 8? What was the strategy behind going 4 through 8 rather than the earlier years?
You want to come up so that the audience can hear you, because
So we chose to go with 4 through 8 just because of the challenges that might be there physically for the younger students in TK through 3rd grade. We do have nurses that are supervising the testing. It is a nasal swab, but we felt that it might be challenging for the younger grades. So we're working with 4 through 8 right now. And then as time progresses, and if we can get additional staffing from the state to help assist with the testing, we can expand it to the younger grades.
because it's self-administered.
It's self-administered.
Oh, it is?
It is. So the students have to do it on their own as the nurse watches them and make sure that they do it properly. And so because of that, trying to do that with little ones can be challenging.
Okay.
And so that's the reason for starting with 4 through 8. And I believe that we tested it in the summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did it in the summer and it worked out very, very well. Now we're expanding it to a larger group. So we're going to keep it with 4 through 8 for now. And then as we have more staffing provided, we can expand it to the younger grades.
If a parent asks, of a lower grade level asks to have their child tested, is that possible?
We can make it work. That is definitely possible.
And we haven't had any requests yet for that?
Well, we haven't sent out that we are
We're
ready to
doing
do
it,
that.
so
Yeah.
we haven't launched that area, so that's okay. Thanks.
Board Member Martinez?
One of the, I would assume Superintendent Cruz, one of the caveats would be that if an individual requested, in what's going, at least my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, because my son was in the summer program where they were doing this, they all kind of put it in a canister, so it's anonymous. You
Yeah.
don't know if you're the person infected or not. And then subsequent testing would occur if we had a hit. If somebody requested it, I don't know would they know individually or would they be thrown in the canister?
They would just be part, if we did it that way, they would be part of that cohort and they would be then asked to test because they were part of that group. And again, that's why it's free. That's why it's provided by the state in this way, that it's easy to administer. It is not individually tagged to a student. And so therefore there's not that extra layers of setup and testing that way. And so a class would be pulled, and therefore if a positive case comes out of that pool, then we know somebody within that class tested positive. They all get quarantined and they all are asked to be tested. And then that's how that works. And so, again, it's to try and facilitate something that can be done fairly quickly with a large, number of students. And I'll just say this, Jason has taken this on, other duties as assigned. He's our COVID response person. He is the one that is, working, he and Oti, coordinating with our proctors and getting the equipment and all these things. So, thank you to Jason and his team, because it is not an easy feat. And, you know, they've been doing this and coordinating this above and beyond everything that we do. He also is our response person for the county. So when we have positive cases, they come through to him, and then it triggers Annette to then also work with the employee if it's an employee. And so, you know, I don't say this enough, but thank you to them because they're doing this above and beyond what we knew normally. And so, you know, I want to publicly thank both of them for their efforts.
We did this during summer school, right? Were there any classes or cohorts that we tested that had a positive? Wow, that's pretty good.
And before we
Yeah,
you know, we have had also negative, consistent negative, 100% tested of employees. So also, you know, been very positive about that.
So, well, and I don't want to jinx, us, but if there happens to be that we don't think will happen, a positive in a cohort during school year, does the teacher also, everybody quarantines?
So there is some guidance out there. There's a new protocol in terms of quarantining. And so there are some exceptions with vaccinated individuals. If everyone in the room has been wearing their masks and someone in a classroom, one of the students tests positive, if the teacher is vaccinated and is not symptomatic, they can still continue to come to work. They should still get tested, but they can still come to work. But the entire class, assuming the kids are below the ages of 12 and have not been vaccinated, they would all have to quarantine and get tested.
So does that mean that they will convert to remote learning or?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the ISP,
Or for 10 days. Well, no, it's not ISP. It would be remote learning, not an ISP, for 10 days or less, because depending on when the last time the student was on campus triggers those 10 days. And so in some cases, it may be less than 10 days. And normally it's less than 10 days because the student doesn't necessarily know they're positive until later on after they've been out.
so it's remote learning with the same teacher?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Because it's only for 10 days.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz, Assistant Superintendents as well for that information. All right, we will now go to item 10.06, waiving the second reading requirement per board bylaw 9310 and amended board policy 6158.
Yes, so AB 130 requires the board to amend board policy 6158 regarding the implementation of independent study. And so the board bylaws allow for the board to waive the second reading. Traditionally, board policies get a first reading at one meeting, a second reading in a subsequent meeting, and then approval at that meeting. Because of the time constraint that we are in starting school and offering this, we asked the board to waive the second reading and approve the changes to the board policy as submitted.
Any questions, board members? Comments? All right, I will accept a motion when you are ready.
Move to item. The amended.
Second.
Item 10.06 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10.07, waiving the second reading requirement per board bylaw 9310 and approving amended board policy 5123.
Again, this is required by state, the state for the board to amend board policy 5123 in regards to the promotion and retention students. And this is due to to allow parents to submit a request to retain a student as a result of impact or of being in distance learning the prior year. Not submitted also is provisions that don't apply to us for high school students and changing, being able to audit grades and the things of that nature. So once again, because of the timeliness of it, we ask the board to waive the second reading and approve board policy 5123 as submitted.
I'll just move to waive the second reading requirement and approve amended board policy 5123.
Second.
Great. Any other discussion? Item 10.07 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. That motion passes unanimously. We'll now go to item 10.08, resolution 2021-29, board compensation for a missed meeting.
To go ahead and move for approval of item 10.08, resolution number 2021-29, board compensation meeting.
Second.
Item 10.08 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
And that motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. We will now go to item 10.09, Assistant Superintendent Contract for Quoc Tran. The board will not be taking action on item 10.09 as a result of the board's action on agenda item 10.01 and its acceptance of Mr. Tran's resignation effective August 13th, 2021. We will now go to item 10.10, custodial supervisor job description. Is that Assistant Superintendent Crosty? Yes, please.
The custodial job description for custodial supervisor is a new job description on the management salary schedule, reporting to the Director of Maintenance and Auxiliary Services and submitted for your approval.
Members, are there any questions or comments on this item? Rodriguez?
What was the reason this was added?
This is part of making sure that we have additional support for the additional custodians that are being hired. And we're hiring those custodians as we speak. And so this position will help to schedule and supervise those additional staff members.
And I'll just add that this was a part of the, again, that 3-year plan that was brought to the board that as a response to our COVID response and the ability for us to better support sites in their effectiveness in disinfecting and cleaning our facilities.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Otherwise, I will accept a motion.
Move to approve action item 10.10, custodial supervisor job description.
Item 10.10 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10.11, Enrollment Center Supervisor Job Description.
The Enrollment Center Supervisor job description is also a new job description, also on the management salary schedule. This job description on this position will report to the Director of IT and is responsible for enrollment services and is the primary contact for students and their families processing enrollment and registration.
Any questions or comments from the board on this item? Accept the motion.
I move to go ahead and approve item 10.1 enrollment center supervisor job description.
Second.
Item 10.11 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10.12, Coordinator, State and Federal Programs, Job Description.
The coordinator job description for state and federal projects is a new job description. We ask that you approve this job description on the management salary schedule, and this job reports directly to the Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services.
Questions or comments, board members? This item. Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve the job description for the coordinator, state and federal projects.
Second.
Item 10.12 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Grassi. We will now go to item 10.13, which was previously consent item 7.07, the 2021 through 2022 ratification of contract with International Institute of Restorative Practices. Board Member Sanchez, you had pulled this item?
Yes, it's clarification in terms of the training that will be taking place. I read that the training is primarily geared toward the administrators, which is good. But when will the training transfer to the staff members who are teaching to really forefront?
Yes, thank you. We have already trained the staff at Silverdale. So last year we had a similar contract with IRP in which the entire staff at Silverdale went through the training. This year, Franklin was ready and agreed to go through the entire training as well. All of the administrative staff already went through a 2-day training. And again, because this is not just about how to respond to students, but it's also just how do we create community and how do we resolve conflict when it does come up. We have now trained the social workers. They are now trainer of trainers. And that's how we're building internal capacity to do exactly what you're talking about, Board Member Sanchez, that they will be then training at their school sites, the staff around restorative practices. The administrative staff, the site administrators are going to go through a theory of practice, again, to build their capacity to create the environments at their school sites to allow for the practices to be in place and to support those. So this year, there's a very heavy focus on the administrative team and the support staff of social workers that then will support the training at the school sites with the teachers for this year.
Questions or comments, board members?
I just want to make sure that, you know, that this is obviously a work that we've been working on for a while, but it really is about this year, it really is about building community. You know, our focus, very beginning, is not about responding to conflict, not responding to discipline. What we've been focusing on for the last couple of weeks in the trainings really is about how do we use these practices to rebuild our school community, our classroom community. And if you see the agenda for tomorrow, that is where it's grounded. Our convocation is grounded on rebuilding our school community with adults, and then the adults building that with our students. We have to understand that we've been gone from our school community for almost 18 months. And so that's sort of where we are starting our foundation.
Motion on this item if we're ready.
Motion item 10.03.
10.13.
Second.
Item 10.13 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 11, communications from the superintendent. Superintendent Cruz?
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly, again, excited that we started with CCA today. Looking forward to Monday, looking forward to tomorrow to being able to address our staff. And just, again, kudos to the board, to our staff. It's been difficult 18 months, but I believe that we are ready to bring our students and our staff back on the 16th. I believe that we can do it in a safe way and that we will do everything we can to keep our staff and our students as safe as we can. Nobody can guarantee 100%, but know that we are doing everything within our power and within our resources to do that. And so I can't, say how proud I am to be part of this district and part of the staff that are working very hard to accomplish this and to be able to welcome our students and our staff. And that, we are going to do this together. And so I'm really appreciative of everybody's efforts at this point and looking forward to Monday. I'm excited. I'm excited about welcoming the students back on the 16th. Most of our students. We already accepted 200 plus students at CCA today. Can't forget about CCA. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 12, communications from the Board of Education. Item 12.01, board member reports, and we'll start with Board Member Sanchez.
Well, I just want to welcome everybody back. Classroom. Also want to thank everyone who was on the tour yesterday. Facilities tour, very nice. Official. Jason, Gabriel, Mark. Tour. It was good to get an update from back. There's our facilities out there. We've done with bond money. Public voted for. Great.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. Clerk Rodriguez.
Yes, I just want to echo Board Member Sanchez's comments regarding the facilities tour. As excited as our students are going to be coming back to campus, they're going to be coming back to campuses that look really nice. New paint, new grounds and things. So I think that they're going to be not only excited about seeing their fellow students, but also seeing a school that they hadn't seen in over a year in some cases, on a regular basis. So I think that I really want to thank Jason and his team for providing an outstanding tour of what our district is doing to welcome our students back from his end as well. It's a great show of teamwork, like Superintendent Cruz stated, and we should all be proud of our district and what everyone is doing as a team. It's exciting. And I wonder, you don't have to answer this, but I wonder if we're going to have any media out there. So I'm a little curious if our good friend from NBC will be out there. We never know, but if it happens, it happens. It'll be great to show off our district. I think we're prepared. We've cleaned up a lot. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Rodriguez. Vice President Trent.
Very grateful to have attended the facilities tours yesterday as well. Just seeing all the years I've been here and just the constant improvements of each of the school sites. I mean, I remember like Silverdale started off as, well, what was known as Silver Jail, right? But now we tore down those big prison walls that it used to have, and it's just much more open environment. And I wish we can go in and actually see some of the improvements inside, but other than that, every other school site has been looking very beautiful, furnished, renovated, but also know that there's a lot more work we have to do. So we'll We can get another bond measure out. Let's see what we can do with that.
Thank you, Vice President Tran. Board Member Martinez.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you guys very, very much. This is my first board meeting and I'm very excited to be here. My first event that I got to go to, and I'm happy to report, was the opening of the Enrollment Center, just right here, a few steps around the corner. I'd like to thank Patricia, Ingrid, Monique, and Ms. Van for taking me in, showing me in, and I'm really excited for the parents and families that are out there who are looking to, find an excellent, high-quality education. This is the place. Come here, come enroll your children, spread the word, and come and see our enrollment center. And kind of in the last thing I'd like to say in the vein of what Superintendent Cruz said, I was there as a father today at CCA. We're up and ready, and it's going to be steps, but it's steps in the positive direction. I think I'm very optimistic about how we're approaching this, and we're going to have jitters. We're going to be nervous. We're going to be, wondering what's around the corner, but we're going to be doing that together, hand in hand. So if there's anybody out there that is, struggling or needs help, ask. If there's anybody that has questions, ask. And if you get asked, help. And if you don't know how to help, we're here. So I'm looking forward to a strong 2021 school year.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. And again, welcome to our board. I hope we've done well for our first meeting for you. Just a couple of things. I also wanted to just congratulate CCA on their first day and excited to be joining the virtual convocation tomorrow to welcome the rest of our staff back as we get ready for the start of the school year. I did have the opportunity to briefly visit the enrollment center and also Windmill Springs during the summer school programming. It was, again, really great to see staff and students consistently following protocols and just having a really great time. So that definitely gives me a lot of hope for this school year, and knowing that we're taking, as many precautions and considerations as possible to really make sure we're making this a really, sound welcome back. That's really rooted in everyone's safety. So thank you to everyone who's working incredibly hard. Superintendent Cruz, our assistant superintendents, all of our administrators and staff who've been working all throughout the summer as well to make this opening return possible for the school year. With that, we'll go to item 12.02, agenda item requests. Board members, are there any requests for additional agenda items at this time? Right, hearing none, we'll go to item 13, future business. And seeing none there at this time, we'll go to item 14, future meeting dates. Item 14.01, our next board meeting is August 24th at 7 p.m. is the open session. The public may also participate virtually. The meeting after that is item 14.02, September 14th at 8 p.m. And that's where we will have our parent informal parent session prior to that, which I believe will be virtual.
Yes, and just a change on that. That was scheduled to be a in-person meeting at Bridges. But given the conditions, we will be changing that to a virtual parent meeting for all district parents. And we will be moving Bridges to a later date.
Thank you for the clarification, Superintendent Cruz. And then the following item 14.03 is the September 28th board meeting minutes. Open session will begin at 7 p.m. and the public may participate virtually to that as well. We'll go on to item 15, closed session. The board will not be returning to closed session at this time. So we are at item 16, adjournment. We'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Right, the motion has been made to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. We are now adjourned at 8:10 p.m. Thank you, everyone.